President Macri, nice to see you again.
I'm very happy that you came back to Argentina.
Well, thank you for having us back, and thank you for having us here to Olivos, the presidential residence. It's an honor to be here with you.
I expect that you feel at home.
I do. And because I feel so at home, I will begin by asking you about what we will see tomorrow. Tomorrow, the country will be paralyzed in some respects by a national strike.
National strike, yes.
And as you know, the rest of the world thought that you were leading Argentina out of its populist past. This looks very much like populism. What happened?
Well, we are leading Argentina towards be a predictable and reliable country, but still there are minorities that they think that maybe any past time was better. So that in the process of a cultural change as we are involved, we still have minorities that are thinking that in the past things were better. No? But the important thing is what happened on Saturday, in which in a spontaneously way, hundreds of thousands of people went out of their homes around the whole country to express that they really believe in what we are doing, that they want to live in democracy, and they want to change, they want to modernize the country, they want to be part of the world, they want to have an intelligent approach to be part of the globalization. And so we are feeling a great support from the citizens, and looking around what is going on, not only in the region, in the whole world, in the 21st century with democracies. I think that we are quite a unique case, no? Because we are doing enormous transformations, and still we are having very big support in the citizens. That shows that what we are doing is not our decision. It's the decision of the majority of the citizens of Argentina, that they decided to capitalize all the learnings that we have in the last decades of failures. No?
As we both know, that support will be tested 6 months from now when you have midterm elections. In the meantime, these national strikes pose some practical obstacles. How do you accelerate growth? How do you effect reform? How do you add seats in Congress if labor unions can bring business to a standstill and hurt the economy?
No, but let me tell you that they are doing this national strike tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we have been working together in but in many sectors to create new, not only labor, new regulatory frameworks together, unions, companies, government, local governments, and national government. And we succeed we have a tremendous success in strategic matters like energy with Vaca Muerta. That is a huge shale gas reserve that we have that will allow us to, in a period of 5 years, recover our local production, and will relieve us from importing huge amounts of gas, especially in winter. And we will be in conditions to export gas, and to be a big worldwide player in energy matters, together with renewables that we have launched a couple of tenders that have been very successful, and we are receiving investments of around $5 billion in this first stage. There are coming future tenders, and we are going to increase that maybe 4 times more. And the same we did in terms of agreements with the unions in the automobile industry, in which we're going to create more than 35,000 jobs. We are doing the same agreement in mining. We did the same agreement in construction. We are working in communication. So it's quite a typical situation of a moment of big change in a country. There are unions that are working in the future, and the others in which they're trying to stuck to the past. No?
Well, people are naturally impatient, aren't they?
In every part of the world, especially in the 21st century, in which we have access to such a huge amount of information. No? And in many times that drives you crazy, drives the society crazy. No? But still, let me tell you, Eric, we have been taking hard decisions, and I have the pain in myself taking those decisions. For example, like increasing tariffs, so as to create a space for new investment, so better services. Without energy, for example, a country cannot grow, no? And Argentina was getting out of energy. And still, the citizens understand that this is a path, this is a journey to the future, and changes cannot be done from one day to the next day, no? From tomorrow to today to tomorrow. So we need to be patient, we need to work, we need to understand that this is a process, and that we are improving day by day. That's the real thing in Argentina, and the good news in Argentina, that we have a long way to run, but we are improving day by day.
You're worried about the long term, and perhaps you should be, but let's talk about the short term for a moment. You promised your fellow countrymen growth, and growth has materialized, but it hasn't materialized as fast as they would have liked to see and you would have liked to see. So if the economy doesn't accelerate, starting in the second half of this year, what's plan B?
No, we are working in plan A. Argentina, after 5 years of zero growth, zero creation of new employments, is in the last 7 months we have been creating new jobs, formal jobs, and we are starting to grow. I understand what you're saying, because
people want to see results.
I need to see results, because
you too.
I care about what happens with my citizens. I care about what happens with the whole Argentina, and I know that the growth is affecting certain regions of the country, certain sectors of the economy, but not in a whole, because this is a process. So the good news is we are already growing, so we change the tendency. Okay, now Argentina is growing back after 5 years, but still it's not enough. We need to accelerate this growth, and we need to keep growing for a couple of decades to finally really make a result in terms of reducing poverty.
Of course. Is there anything you can do to accelerate the growth in the short term? Do you have any tools that you can use beyond what you've already done?
No, it's what we are doing, creating trust.
So there is no plan B, really?
No, there's no plan B. We have to continue creating trust every day, in every decision that we take, as a country, as a whole society. We have to keep discussing, having spaces of dialogue with the different sectors to create better tools, better regulatory frameworks in which we can develop in a better way those activities, bringing in new investments, and that's what we are doing every day. But it's a process. You can't change 15 years in 15 months. That's a magician. You have to go to Las Vegas and watch Copperfield. Here we are working. We are a team in the government, together with the majority of the citizens of Argentina, working together in building the country that we deserve and that we expected.
Mr. President, growth, as you know, has a direct impact on the budget.
Yes.
You have already had to raise the primary deficit target to about 3.2% of GDP. Is that a number investors can take to the bank, or is there a risk, if growth doesn't accelerate, that you're going to have to raise that target again?
No. I think that we are in a good process, and we were going to achieve all the goals that we had committed, and really with a great confidence in what we are doing.
And I speak, of course, of 2018. People seem pretty comfortable with the path that you're on for 2017. This year, And last year, you used revenue from the tax amnesty to help finance that budgetary shortfall. Next year, you won't have it. So how do you close the gap?
Well, that's, you're raising a good point. That's we need to go in a deepen and fasten capability of creating dialogue spaces in the society. So we sat down the politics, the business community, the provinces, and find out how we are going to cut the deficit. That is the challenge that we have. And we
so you're talking about cutting costs here. You're talking about cutting potentially government jobs. You're talking about...
No, we're talking about how we are going to create a budget in which we will show that what we had committed in terms of fiscal deficits annually, in annually basis, that was going to be reduced. We are achieving that. No? We have to achieve what we have committed.
So how do you do it? Well, how do you cut those costs?
Well, that's why I'm waiting for having a deeper discussion with all the different sectors in which we are going to find out the way in which accelerating growth, but also reducing state costs, we will achieve the fiscal deficit that we had committed.
What about the peso? The strong peso is having a depressing effect on the economy. Exports aren't as competitive if the peso is strong. The farmers, as you know, sit on stockpiles of grain. Cheap imports discourage local production. Wouldn't it help if you had a weaker currency?
But that's fully related with the fiscal deficit. Is we are financing the fiscal deficit, bringing in dollars. Obviously, in a flotation exchange market, you will have
the more you borrow,
more dollars come in, you lower the dollar local price. No, so that's why we need to reduce the fiscal deficit. There's no other way.
In a perfect world, you would have less inflation, you would have lower interest rates, you would have a weaker peso, and you would have stronger growth, but you can't have them all at the same time. Let me ask it this way, what's more important right now? Stimulating growth or fighting inflation?
You have to do both things at the same time. There's no other way. With lower inflation, we have bigger chances to grow. And you are defending the salary value of the workers. And that's my main compromise. I need to defend the salary of the workers. But at the same, and that's reducing inflation. Reducing inflation will accelerate growth because you will give more certainty to those ones that have to invest, that you are fulfilling what you had committed.
But what about that 6-month period between now and October when everybody has to make a decision about how they feel? How rich do they feel? How much money is there in their pocket? Are their wages rising? Are they getting good jobs?
The wages are going to rise with the new negotiations, and together with the reduction in inflation that we are going to have in the rest of the year, they will feel that they will assume and they will see that they will have more capability of purchasing goods, and that will be something very good for everybody, and that will affect their humor.
These midterm elections that we're talking about in October will undoubtedly be a referendum on your government. That's how these things tend to work. Obviously, you want Cambiemos, your political alliance, to win as many seats as possible. I think that goes without saying. But I would like to know this. How many seats, what percentage of the Congress do you need to have for you to call that election a win?
I'm quite confident that we are going to win the election. But that will
win a majority?
Will be the first minority. But even if we have a great result, let's say the majority, that will not be enough to have the majority at the Congress, because we are starting for a very low situation. No? So we are going to improve, We are going to have maybe 20% more seats, but those figures will not be enough to have the majority at the Congress. But that, in one sense, will demand that we continue creating the dialogue spaces, and that's something very, very great for our future, because we need to understand that confrontation is not the way to solve the problems in Argentina.
So if you win less than 20% more, is that a disappointment? Is that a failure?
If we don't win the election, will be a failure. But I'm really very optimistic in that our citizens will back up these reforms that we have started.
Cristina Fernandez, your predecessor as president, as you know, remains a very polarizing figure in this country. Many people think she should be in prison. Others would like to see her run for elected office in October. What would you prefer?
Whatever she prefers. I don't care. She has to fulfill the requirements of the justice in all the suits that she's facing, and if she wants to be candidate, she can be candidate.
Here's how I look at it. If she's prosecuted and incarcerated, that demonstrates to Argentines and to the rest of the world that this country is serious about fighting corruption. That's good for you.
Yes.
However, if she runs and she continues to be a divisive figure and she divides your opponents, the Peronists, that's also good for you. But one has to be better than the other. Which is it?
First, both
better that she be in prison.
Both situations don't depend on me.
I know that.
So, I'm working for creating or helping to consolidate and have stronger institutions in Argentina.
Of course.
So I want an independent justice, as you mentioned before. If we can show that we have independence in the daily action of our justice, that will be something very good for Argentina's future.
But at the same time, you want to win the election. And if she divides your opponents, that helps.
I believe in what we are doing. We don't depend on what Cristina does or any other politician does. We depend on what we are working, in which we are working
Precisely.
every day.
You have to play the cards you're dealt.
So I need to continue working and to be focused in solving the problems of my citizens and demonstrating that this is the way to the future. And I don't care what they do. They have to fulfill the role of opposition and do what they think and defend the ideas that they believe. I believe in other ideas, and I believe that Argentina has a great future if we find our role in the global scenario, and if we keep creating clear rules, stable on time, be reliable, fulfill our word. That will create a future for our people, jobs, and with jobs we will reduce poverty.
Let's talk about that bigger picture. There's a growing sense that democracy in Latin America is fragile. Look what's happening in Paraguay, for example. Look what's happening in Venezuela, even Brazil. Is there a bigger role for you and for Argentina to play as a stabilizing force in this region?
Argentina has a role to fulfill in the region and in the world. The world has always been waiting for Argentina, and this is the time to show that all what we can do, all what we are capable of creating, and also showing a way to the future based in the values that we have been discussing, no? Respecting the laws, the institutions, democracy, and real democracy, not what we have in Venezuela. That's not democracy.
What is it? Is it a dictatorship?
This is a dictatorship that doesn't respect any human rights.
Nicolás Maduro is a dictator.
Oh, absolutely. Having politicians of the opposition in jail without any charges, real charges. Okay?
So what do you do about that? I know you care about Venezuela. Is it time, for example, to kick them out of Mercosur?
Well, we have done a great advance last weekend with the 4 countries of Mercosur. We have write down communication in which we are demanding for elections, to release the political prisoners, to respect the independence of the justice and the Congress. And so I think that we are pushing all in the right direction for the first time in a very clear way, and the same in the American organization, no? In which they have also issued a communication.
The Organization of American States.
Organizations of American States.
But
yes.
These are just words. They're not actions yet.
Well, what action is? What else you can do?
Well, you can kick Venezuela out of Mercosur.
Well, we are in the. They are already suspended. They are already suspended.
So that's enough.
No, it's never enough. We have to keep battling in favor of our dear Venezuelans that are suffering the consequences of this disaster.
Next, not next month, this month, in fact, you'll be traveling to Washington to meet President Trump. April 27th, correct?
Yes.
You'll see him at the White House?
At the White House.
What's on the agenda?
Discussing about the future relations between both countries. What we talk on the phone is that he believes that what we have started with the Obama administration is the base, and we should believe in that we have a space to deepen our relations and find out ways of mutual benefit in future cooperations.
He is a protectionist. You're a free trader.
I will not say that I'm free trader. I believe in globalization, and I believe that we can find ways of increasing the relations between Argentina and the States a lot, because we have very weak relations.
On what basis? Where does Argentina fit in an America First foreign policy?
Well, first, I think that in spite of what we can talk in terms of a direct relation between Argentina and the States, we have to talk between Mercosur and the United States, no? So I think that there is...
So you need to have a united front?
We need, because we are members of Mercosur. So we are going to work together in that future relation, and I expect that we will find ways to improve and increase our commercial relations together with any other spaces of cooperation, no? For example, against the drug trafficking, against terrorism, in favor of peace. There are many ways in which we can cooperate.
But there are many ways in which you can compete as well. America wants some of the same export markets that you want.
Well, that happens always, no? But let's say that we can focus first in which areas we can be complementary, and then to compete there's always time, no?
President Macri, I want to thank you again for having us here to Argentina, having us to your presidential residence. Olivos, it's a pleasure to see you again.
No, my pleasure, Eric. And I expect that you will have time to go around the city or visit another part of Argentina.
I certainly hope so, and we'd love to see you in New York City.